Hello, it's been a while. So I thought I'd do a video. I guess I did post one yesterday or the day before. I did an interview with Anna Saccone, which she is an amazing woman. So if you haven't listened to that interview, please go and listen to it. She's a mom of four and has fully recovered and just has the most inspiring story. She really is awesome and so delightful to talk to. So yes, please go listen to that. But today I wanted to talk about that stage in recovery when you may be slipping. You may have been in a really solid place, but not fully recovered. You've become a little bit complacent and you start noticing things that are starting to feel harder again. And so some of those red flags I want to talk about in this video. The first thing to look for, there's not a first thing necessarily. The first thing I'm going to discuss here, but this can happen in any order and it may not be all of them. But these are just some things that if they start popping up and you start noticing like, ooh, yeah, that was hard again. Shoot, that's a red flag that things are going backwards, not forwards, right? It's really hard to stay in one place in recovery. I feel like you're either moving forward or you're moving backward, but just kind of maintaining in recovery. If you're not constantly pushing yourself and working forwards, you're going to be going backwards, and nobody wants that, right? If you're trying to fully recover. So one of the first things is if you start becoming really rigid with meals. So let's say like before recovery, you weren't even really, eating 3 meals a day regularly. And then you get into recovery and you're really good about eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacking in between those meals. And you find yourself getting really rigid. So, you have to eat lunch at a certain time. Eating it earlier, if a friend invited you out to go out for lunch an hour earlier, really caused you anxiety. You're starting to eat kind of the same things for meals. Maybe you have like 3 or 4 different things, but the thought of branching out from those makes you feel anxious. Whereas before, when you're earlier on in recovery, you're, challenging something new every day and you hadn't, repeated foods for a long time because there's so many foods you're trying to get through and challenge and overcome that you were constantly mixing that up and it looked different every day. So if your days start looking the same and you start getting a little bit more rigid and locked into routines, that's when you know, oh my gosh, hold on, stop, can't go there. I need to rewind for a second and treat this like day one of recovery, and I got to recommit. What are the foods that I still need to tackle and be challenging? Because now is not a time for you to be locking into rigidity, right? And it never really will be, to be honest. But if you're still in recovery and you're catching yourself kind of falling back into that routine and feeling like every day is the same, essentially, change it. And do what you did at the beginning of recovery, right? Go back to, okay, what are my challenges today? What am I going to tackle? What am I going to do that's going to freak the crap out of my eating disorder, and do that. Another thing is when you start becoming reluctant or resistant to eating out, whereas before, you're eating out every day, multiple times a day. And all of a sudden, it's been a few days or a week and you haven't, and the idea of going out is starting to feel harder and harder, and getting takeout, you start wanting to, I don't want to do that, or going out with your husband, you're kind of trying to dodge that, or picking the safe place that you usually can eat at because it doesn't cause anxiety. Like, all of those things are big red flags. You need to, again, recommit and challenge yourself. Okay, looks like I need to start eating out every day. These things cannot become scary again. I have to keep going at this until these are no longer issues, okay? Another one, this is a big one. And these are all the things I've gathered from talking to clients. So, recently we've had some clients who are kind of getting stagnant or kind of complacent, and we're kind of identifying or picking out, okay, what are these things that are tripping up? Why do you feel like you haven't made progress in the last week or two? And these are kind of some of the things that we're digging up, like, okay, and this is not just with these particular clients, but I see this all the time. These are major red flags. So harder to confront. So if you are with a spouse, or living with a roommate, or you have like a best friend that's really like closely involved with your recovery, and they start kind of noticing things, or they maybe kind of point something out and you get really defensive, like, no, I'm not, that's not what I'm doing. I didn't know. What are you talking about? And you get really angry and kind of defensive. Also not a good sign. Somebody who's truly actively in recovery and asking for support and help, someone that comes to you, hey, I noticed such and such. Really? I didn't realize that. Oh my gosh, yeah, let's go get burgers tonight. Like very receptive to feedback. And I've been in both places where I was like, oh my gosh, thank you for pointing that out, because I want to recover and I didn't realize that was happening. So yes, let's change it. And I'd panic almost, and I'd like immediately make the change, versus there would be times when my husband would come to me and be like, hey, I've noticed, like, are you still eating out? Or it seems like you haven't, like, no, I've just been busy. No, I have, I'd get really defensive. So those are two like very different reactions to someone approaching you with concern. If you're defensive, they're probably right. They're always, someone who's supporting you is always you always need to be trusting them and listening to them. But if you're defensive, you probably know something needs to change. And if you're receptive, that's a great sign. It just means you overlooked it, or you didn't notice that was happening, and now you can make the change. Thank them for recognizing it for you. Another thing is you're generally just more irritable and anxious. You just start feeling unsettled in your recovery. You start feeling, oh my gosh, like overwhelmed, feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just never going to get there. That feeling when you're kind of in the middle of recovery or somewhere in between is because you're not giving it your all. You're not doing all the things that you need to be doing, because that uneasy, unsettled feeling is that nagging you, hey, you got to up your game here. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep going. When I was really fully going for it and I was really committed, I didn't have that uneasy, overwhelmed feeling. I felt like I'm going to get there. I don't care if it takes me a month or another year, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. I always had this sense of hope, not dread and daunting and overwhelming feelings. Those feelings mean you need to push more. You know that you're still missing some things. You're still avoiding things. You're still dodging hard challenges. I can promise you that if you start tackling those things, you pinpoint what those are and you start tackling them, that unsettled feeling is going to go away and you're going to feel hope again. And then less flexible. And that kind of goes with becoming more rigid. It's just all of a sudden, like going on holiday or going on vacations feels kind of less fun. And it feels like, how am I going to fit this in? Or, I don't want to veer away from my routine now that I have. It's good. It's a better one. And I'm eating a lot, but like, the idea of like going out and being out away from home and eating out a lot and maybe eating at different times, that scares me. Then you know what you need to do. You need to plan those holidays and those vacations and plan those lunch dates with friends and go out with your husband and all those things. So if you start feeling like you're less flexible and being spontaneous is causing you a lot of anxiety, change it. Make the challenges, set them up if you need to. Be proactive in your recovery, but make those changes, because if you wait for them just to come along, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're going to somehow get out of it. You're going to somehow talk yourself, into thinking that it's not important that you challenge this thing. Or days and days go by and it just so happens that you aren't faced with the challenge. And then all of a sudden those things that were easy before are now hard. So you have to stay proactive in your recovery. And like I said, all of these things I've talked about in this video are big red flags that something has to change, that you need to be challenging more, that you need to make more, challenges or goals or commitments. Talk to someone. Recognizing that there's more work to be done is a really good thing if you then get to work and do those things. Okay. But staying in denial and refusing to make any changes because you're better than you were isn't going to get you fully recovered. So hope you have a great day. Bye.